As the plane touched down in the bustling city of New York, Temitope stared out of the small window, her heart filled with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. She had left her family in Lagos, Nigeria, chasing the dream of better opportunities and a brighter future. Back home, everyone had contributed to her travel expenses, pulling together savings to send her abroad. "You are our hope," her mother had said, tears streaming down her face as they hugged at the airport. "Don't forget us." Temi had vowed she wouldn't, but as she stepped out into the unfamiliar city, she realized that the path ahead might be more difficult than she had imagined. Temitope loved her family and reflected on the good times they used to have together on the beach or traveling to see her grandparents in Rika village. She remembered her grandma's tales and the fun during the festive period, but she bravely told herself what was ahead was even better. Upon arrival, Temitope stayed with her cousin Adetola, who had been living in the United States for 3 years. Adetola worked tirelessly as a nurse, often pulling double shifts to pay her bills and send money home to her family in Busa. Her dedication was evident, but so was her exhaustion. "This place is not what they show in the movies," Adetola cautioned Temitope one evening after a particularly grueling shift. "You have to hustle hard. Everything costs money. Rent, bills, transportation. It's just a lot." Temitope quickly came to understand what Adetola meant. The cost of living in the US was staggering. The rent for Adetola's small one-bedroom apartment consumed nearly half her salary, leaving utilities and other expenses to gulp a significant portion of what remained. Temitope marveled at how her cousin managed to make ends meet, much less send money home. Temitope was determined to ease the financial strain, so she found a job as a cashier at a local convenience store. The pay, however, was meager, barely enough to cover her share of expenses. Every paycheck seemed to vanish as quickly as it came. Groceries, transportation fares, and the occasional unexpected expense all consumed most of her pay. Her colleagues loved her but couldn't say her name right, as some called her Temitope, Temi. But to make it easy for all, Temitope asked to be called Temi for short. As time went by on the job, reality began to sink in. The promises of a better life, of opportunities waiting to be seized, felt like nowhere in sight. If she was going to make it, Temi realized she needed to find an additional job. She began scouring job boards, picking up odd shifts wherever she could, and even considering online gigs on the weekends to supplement her income. Despite the challenges, she remained resolute. The hustling was exhausting, but Temi clung to the hope that her determination would eventually pave the way to the life she had envisioned. Temi juggled 3 demanding jobs, working as a cashier during the day, at a convenience store at night, and online gigs at the weekends. Her shifts often overlapped, leaving her barely any time to rest. Some weeks she worked 24 to 48 hours non-stop, catching brief naps on the subway between shifts. Exhaustion weighed heavily on her. Her feet began to throb, her back ached, and her eyes were constantly bloodshot. But slowing down wasn't an option. She had bills to pay, groceries to buy, and a commitment to send money back to her family in Nigeria. "We're counting on you," her younger brother Sheun reminded her during a call. "School fees are due soon." "I will send the money next week," Temi promised. Though she had no idea how she would make it, determined and resilient, she pressed on, sacrificing her well-being for the sake of her family's future. During her rare moments of rest, Temi often reflected on her future. She knew working multiple exhausting jobs wasn't sustainable. I need to go back to school, she confided to her cousin Adetola one evening. Nursing could be a good option though, Adetola suggested. It's demanding, but the pay is decent and there's always a need for nurses. Inspired by Adetola's words, Temi enrolled in a part-time nursing program. Balancing school and work pushed her to her limits. She attended classes during the day, worked night shifts at the convenience store, and spent weekends cleaning offices. Sleep became a luxury she could rarely find. There were days when exhaustion threatened to overwhelm her, and the thought of quitting crept into her mind, but she drew strength from her family's sacrifices back home. The dream of a better future for herself and her loved ones kept her going, even when the challenges felt insurmountable. Temi's determination to rise above her circumstances fueled her every step, reminding her that the hard work she endured now was the foundation for a better future. Temi found she wasn't alone in her struggles when she met other immigrants who were also working tirelessly to make ends meet, each with their own stories of sacrifice and resilience. One of them was William, a young man from Ghana who worked as a delivery driver during the day and as a security guard at night. Despite his grueling schedule, William always had a kind word and a smile for those around him. But beneath his upbeat demeanor was a deep loneliness. He hadn't seen his wife and children in 3 years because he couldn't afford a visit home. Sometimes I wonder if it's worth it, William admitted one day during a shared break. There are days I feel like giving up, but when I remember why I am here, my kids are in school because of me, that keeps me going. Then there was also Grace, a single mother from Kenya who worked as a caregiver for elderly clients. Grace's dream was to start her own business someday, but the reality of her situation left little room for her ambition. Her days were consumed by work, and her nights were filled with worry about mounting bills. Every month is just the same, Grace said with a tired voice. You pay rent, pay bills, and there's almost nothing left. But I can't complain. At least my daughter has a better life here. Hearing their stories, Temitope found solace and strength. She realized that while each of them had their own struggles, they also shared a common determination to push forward for the sake of their loved ones. Inspired by their resilience, Temi doubled her efforts to find additional work. She began taking on extra shifts at the convenience store and started exploring online job opportunities in her free time. Every small step felt like progress, even if it didn't immediately change her circumstances. Though life was far from easy, Temi reminded herself of the dreams that had brought her to America. The road ahead was uncertain, but she was determined to keep going. Like William and Grace, she held tightly to the belief that her sacrifices would one day lead to a better future, not just for herself, but for the family she left behind. Despite the challenges, there were moments of triumph. Temitope passed her first semester of nursing school with good grades. She found a supportive community among her classmates, many of whom were also immigrants. They formed study groups, shared tips on managing their schedules, and encouraged one another during tough times. We are all in this together, one of her classmates, Maria, said. Maria was from Uganda and had been working as a caregiver while studying nursing. One day, we will look back and see how far we've come, says Maria. Despite her struggles in the US, Temi finally started to see a silver lining. After weeks of juggling shifts at the convenience store and taking on odd jobs, she managed to save enough money to send a hefty sum back home. The results were both rewarding and hilarious. Her younger brother Sheung called her the moment he received the money. "Sister, you are my hero. I have paid my tuition. One day, when I am a big engineer, I will build you a mansion. Just focus on passing your exams first, Sheung. Don't forget the last time you engineered a failing grade. Her mom, on the other hand, took the entrepreneurial route. With Temi's help, she started a small business selling goods in the local market. Ah, Temi, I am now the CEO of Mama Tola Ventures, her mom announced proudly during their next video call. CEO care, Temi teased, grinning. Do CEOs bargain over tomatoes and peppers? Yes, and I bargain very well. Thank you very much, her mother shot back, sending Temi into fits of laughter. Though her family's gratitude was heartwarming, their humor and optimism gave her even more strength. Sheung's update about his classes, filled with exaggerated tales of professors who could make a grown man cry, always made her day. And her mom's market escapades, complete with tales of haggling like a pro and competing with Madame Sade next door, became the highlight of their weekly calls. These moments reminded Temi why she worked so hard. Sure, her life in the US was far from glamorous. Her feet ached from standing all day, and her bank account often looked like it had gone on a hunger strike, but she was making a real difference. Whenever things got tough, she would remember Sheung's dreams of building her a mansion and her mom's new nickname in the market, Madam CEO. Those tiny victories were like fuel keeping her going. And who could resist smiling when Sheung sent her a picture of himself holding a textbook proudly captioned, Future Engineer, sponsored by my big sister. After 3 years of relentless effort, Temi finally graduated from nursing school. She secured a job at a hospital, and while the work was demanding, the pay was better than what she earned at her previous jobs. For the first time, she could afford to reduce her hours and focus on building a more stable life. 8 months after graduation, Temi met Michael, a friendly car dealer who is funny and makes her laugh. After a year of dating and playful arguments over who made the best jollof rice, they decided it was time to make things official. The couple traveled to Lagos, Nigeria for their traditional wedding. Temitope's family was overjoyed to see her again, and the celebration was unforgettable. Her mother danced so enthusiastically that she joked her slippers needed emergency repairs. The wedding was lovely, with plenty of food, music, and laughter to keep the neighborhood buzzing for days. After returning to the United States, Temitope and Michael hosted their white wedding. It was elegant. Temitope's friends and Michael's friends and family came together to celebrate, and everyone agreed it was a beautiful event. From heartfelt vows to a towering cake that seemed to defy gravity, the day was filled with unforgettable moments. The reception even included a dance-off between Michael and his best man, which had the crowd in stitches. By the end of the weddings, they were tired but happy. Michael joked that the celebrations were worth it, even if their bank accounts looked like it needed resuscitation. For them, every moment was priceless, a perfect reflection of their love and the joy they brought to their families and friends. Their son, Jason, was born 16 months after their marriage. However, 6 months later, Temitope noticed changes in Michael's behavior. He began staying out late and often came home smelling of alcohol. Whenever she questioned him about his whereabouts, Michael responded with anger and at times violence. Temitope kept her struggles to herself, never informing her family. Instead, she confided in a close friend who advised her to record the incidents and call the police if it happened again. One night after another heated confrontation, Temitope followed her friend's advice. She recorded Michael's violent outburst and called the police. Michael was arrested and later sentenced to a year in jail. Upon his release, Temitope made the difficult decision to file for a divorce. After the divorce, Temitope found herself drawn to a group of divorced women who introduced her to a lifestyle of frequent partying and travel. She began spending weekends away, visiting other cities and states for leisure. Unfortunately, this newfound freedom came at a cost. Jason, now a toddler, was often left in the care of friends or daycare centers, while Temitope pursued her desire for escape and enjoyment. Looking back, Temitope realized life in the United States wasn't the dream she had envisioned. It was filled with long hours, sleepless nights, and constant stress. Yet it also offered opportunities that she couldn't find back home. She had grown in resilience, perseverance, and learned the value of a supportive community. She soon realized the need to refocus on her job and her son. Seeking solace, Temitope began drawing closer to God, finding strength and intimacy in her faith. She prayed for guidance and hoped that someday she might meet the right man. Gradually, her priorities shifted and she started rebuilding her life with purpose and determination. Please watch out for part 2 of this video. If this has blessed and kept you entertained, please subscribe, comment, like, and hit the notification bell for future videos. Thank you so much for watching and stay blessed.